Hello and welcome to today's show. My name is Fanchen Stinger and I will be your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. You are watching Farmington Hills Citizen Corps Council for Emergency Preparedness cable show, and our topic for February is emergency preparedness for seniors and others with special needs. And just as a reminder, the mission of the Citizen Corps Council is to support and enhance the efforts of local public safety organizations in helping ensure that residents and business owners have the information, the education, and skills necessary to protect yourselves, your families, your homes, and your businesses in the event of a local emergency. With me today is Louis Cantor of Farmington Hills Senior Division. Lou is also a member of the Commission on Aging and the Citizen Corps Council and is a moderator of his own cable show. So today he is playing guest. His show is Mature Matters. Also with us today is Marvin Schlane. He is a Citizen Corps Council member and a member of the Hills Neighborhood Watch Association. Lou and Marv, thank you both for being here today with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you too, and thank you for volunteering your time to this important series of programs. We really appreciate your taking your time out to do that.
Well, I can tell you it's an absolute pleasure, and in doing this every month, I have learned so much. So thank you both for all that you do to make sure that all of us here in Farmington Hills are prepared and, most importantly, educated.
Right.
Our topic again today is preparedness for seniors and people with special needs. You know, you think about being prepared and you say, well, gosh, I can pick up the phone and call 911. The police will respond, the fire will respond. Why do we need to think beyond that in terms of being prepared?
It's a great point, and you're right. We have a great services, police department and fire and emergency department here in Farmington Hills. They're, bar none, they're the best. But when something like this happens, some emergency, mass emergency happens, they're going to be stretched simply too thin. And the objective of this organization and our calendar is to make sure that when they are stretched thin, our citizens will be able to take care of themselves during that period of time that it takes them to get there. The 72 hours is a time that we figured maximum that would take for them to handle the situation if it came to that.
Okay. Marv, let me ask you this question. When you talk about every citizen needing to be prepared and knowing what to expect and how to protect themselves and their family in an emergency, what's different about our senior citizens and those with special needs?
Well, preparedness is especially critical for those in our community who have special needs. Many older, frail, and disabled persons, particularly those who live alone, need to prepare in advance so that meals, medicine, oxygen, transportation are available in time of emergency.
Okay. Marv, is there anything you want to add to that, or in terms of thinking about those with special needs and those senior citizens who can't get around, what do we need to do as able-bodied neighbors to help them prepare?
Well, really, I think that we should put into effect a self-help network for seniors. And by doing that, I simply mean that their coworkers, friends, and relatives should be notified and be ready to pitch in time of emergency. Okay. For instance, someone may have to have a key to their home. They should know where their emergency supply kit is. That's important for those seniors.
And when you say that, I think about, like, if you have an elderly parent, maybe they live across town or something, you may want to contact that parent's neighbors, make sure their neighbors have an extra key or emergency contact number so they can call you in case something happens to your family members. Anything you want to add?
Right. I think it's really important for us as individuals and neighbors and friends and relatives to be aware of people with special needs. As I say, whether it's your own relative or whether it's a friend or neighbor, if we're aware of those people and what their needs are, we can jump in and help. And so So it's also an opportunity, I think, for us to, it's an almost incentive for us to go out and meet some of our neighbors and get to know them, and tell them that we're available to help them if that's the case.
And if you do have neighbors that are seniors or neighbors with special needs, you know, it would be probably a good idea to have some first aid training. And even if you don't have neighbors that are seniors or neighbors with special needs, first aid training is good to have just for your own family and for yourself. Is that type of training expensive?
Oh, am I glad you brought that up.
I thought you would be.
The Citizens Corps Council has put on a first aid awareness class now for the last, we did it first in October, and we're doing another one soon.
Okay.
And that first aid awareness program is completely free.
Oh, that's excellent.
So what we do is we have people from the emergency support groups come in and show people how to do CPR, how to handle a burn situation, any kind of a first aid situation. Again, with the idea of not being an expert, it's not a licensed, it's not a course that you get a certificate from, but what you would walk away with is a feeling of confidence that if something happened, you could at least handle it for a while. And that quote
until
unquote,
the emergency people got there.
That's right. And that quote unquote for a while is in many cases just enough time to get that person over the edge to, you know, and make them able to survive.
And when you think about it, that little bit of training, though it's not a certified training, can really be the difference between life and death.
Absolutely.
In some respects.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's what we stress. And that's
All right.
The first class that we put on, we had 300 citizens come through.
Oh, that's great.
And that's not including some that we missed, you know, the counting them. So plus 300. Well, we're going to be doing another one, and we're expecting a lot more. And our goal is to have everybody in the Farmington area, Farmington Hills, aware of and able to handle that emergency and continue our goal to be the safest city.
Has a date been selected for that next training?
It has. It's going to be in March.
Okay.
And then we'll have another one later on. So it's going to be a continuing event, and we'll put because these dates change, we'll be able to put them on the screen and have it have
so
it
mark
shown
your
that way.
calendars, coming up in March.
That's right.
Your first aid training.
That's right.
All right.
Bring a friend.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Make it a family or a community or neighborhood
Or maybe
event.
a date.
Not a bad idea either. You know, thinking along the lines of first aid training, you probably want to have a first aid kit on hand. Marv, what would be in your first aid kit?
Well, first of all, everyone should try to know a little about first aid. That's very, very extremely important. And everyone should have a kit, survival kit for 72 hours, 3 days. And that's very important for them to have.
Okay.
Now, basically speaking, a kit would include water primarily, which is the first consideration, 1 gallon per person per day.
Okay.
Also, you would have to have a 3-day supply of non-perishable foods, canned goods, for instance, foods that you might like, and be sure to have a manual can opener. That's extremely important.
Oh, very important. You don't want to get a can and not have a can opener. Now, I understand
Without
it's
that, you're in
important.
trouble.
Exactly. I also understand it's important to switch those out every 6 months. The water and the
water
food.
every 6 months. Water should be turned over every 6 months. You should
Okay.
use what you have and replace it.
Okay.
And also a portable battery-powered radio
Okay.
with extra batteries. You should have a flashlight with extra batteries. You should have a first aid kit primarily, and sanitation hygiene items.
Okay.
And if it happened to be cold during the emergency, it would be a good idea to have a jacket or a coat set aside. And also gloves, scarf, a long sleeve shirt, long pants, dirty shoes. These are important considerations.
Okay. I also am looking at a list here as well, and when you're speaking of people with special needs, in terms of an emergency preparedness kit, information for hearing eye dogs or probably
Seeing eye dogs.
Seeing eye dogs.
Yes, and extra batteries for, be it hearing aids or be it wheelchairs or medications are real critical to have.
Prescriptions are extremely important for seniors.
And they also information or serial numbers for pacemakers, your Medicare, Medicaid cards, if that's applicable.
Right, exactly right.
A list of your doctors, phone numbers for doctors, and like you said, Marv, food that does not require cooking.
That is correct.
And interestingly, water it shouldn't be rationed. They say, you know, you can ration food to some extent and other things, but water you're supposed to drink that gallon per day.
Never could have enough water.
And that would be, I think that would be one of the things that you'd tend to say, well, I don't need quite that much. It's heavy or, you know, bulky or something. But indeed, that's probably something that you really should have more of than less of.
Absolutely.
Are there any other things you can think of, Lou, in terms of a list that someone should have, let's say if they're waiting for the 911 emergency assistance to arrive?
You bet.
Okay.
There are lists, phone numbers of people, relatives again.
Okay.
Lists of medications. And as a matter of fact, at the senior division, in cooperation with the CCCEP, the senior division and the Commission on Aging has made available what we call a file of life. And the file of life comes in an envelope like this.
Okay.
And it can be put on your refrigerator. It's got a magnetic strip on the back. Okay. And in that file of life is this form, okay? And this form has everything that you could want. Along with this is a sticker like this.
Okay.
That could go on your front door, okay? So if in an emergency, and this is in an emergency where you're down and not able to respond, and the emergency people come, the fire or whatever, come to your door, they will know to look on your refrigerator for this, okay? And this file has your medications, it has your relatives, it has everything that could be important, so that they would know right away whether there's some special considerations that need to be taken.
And looking at how comprehensive that is and how complete that information is, it would probably be a good idea for everyone to start building a file like that and have it on hand.
It would be. It's a great idea for people because all of us have unique situations and unique needs. Oxygen is an example. Marv, when you were talking about the 72-hour kit, some people with oxygen should have an extra bottle of oxygen sitting available.
Absolutely.
Critical.
Wheelchair batteries also.
Yep.
Right. There's a whole lot of things that people with quote-unquote special needs have to take into consideration.
I've heard a lot of talk about a self-help network. And I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much here, but a self-help network. Explain what that means.
Extremely important. Let me
I
explain
haven't
that.
heard that.
Self-help network for seniors simply means where relatives, co-workers, friends can pitch in time of emergency.
Okay.
Those phone numbers have to be readily available.
Okay.
And that's extremely important. And of course, these people must, as I mentioned before, should have a key to your premises for seniors and be able to help out when there is an emergency.
It's important that neighbors can get involved. If a neighbor is there, the neighbor can perhaps get into the house and contact the doctor or contact a family member.
Probably a good idea to give a trusted neighbor a key to your house too. Okay. And also have a phone number or a contact location outside of your home. If there's an emergency and the phone lines are down within the community, in many cases the phones going out to another community might be available. So if you have a relative living in another community, if everybody uses that as their quote-unquote hub, then they can contact and, how's mom? Have you heard anything from mom? And yeah, they've heard indirectly.
Okay.
And seniors should have a cell phone too, if possible.
Do you have any suggestions? A cell phone is critical, as you just mentioned.
Very
Do you have any suggestions for people who may be on life-saving machinery? And we talked about the oxygen. I don't know about the dialysis or anything.
Yeah. You need to have people aware of that. Okay. Where you can have extra supplies of some equipment, like we were saying earlier, oxygen, have it. Batteries, have them. But also, if you have those special needs, or a relative has those special needs, you should call the senior division.
Okay.
And the phone number is 248-473-1830.
Okay.
And make us aware that you're bedridden or you're wheelchair bound or you have special needs for dialysis or oxygen, and we can have you on a database so that if, again, that happens and there's a regional emergency, we know those people who have to be gotten to.
Exactly, and where they are.
And the emergency people will be made aware of that. So
You bring up a good point, because this is probably something a lot of us don't think about when it comes to our senior parents or neighbors. If a person needs to get out of a house, you need to have an evacuation plan. You need to know how you're going to get that person out of the house, number one, and that person needs to know how they're going to get themselves, if they can, out of the house. So
Excellent
it's critical
point.
to come up with that plan.
Just like we've been saying all along, planning is so important.
Yes.
And if you plan, you may not ever have to put that plan into effect, but you even if you don't, you feel a lot more confident about your life as it is.
Right.
So the planning is important, and then the letting other people know about your special needs. It's not a time to be ashamed of or concerned with that sort of thing. Let people know we can help.
The more information.
We're there to help.
Yes.
And that's what's great about the Farmington area.
Work together.
It's just a great family here. And we do really, the people who are employees of the city really do care about the citizens, and they'll do everything they can if we're aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lou, you guys both mentioned, Lou and Marv, you mentioned cell phones, the importance of having a cell phone. But it's also important to have a landline too.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, first of all, the cell phone. Let me go into that a little
Okay.
bit, and then we can talk about the landline. If you have a cell phone, great. If you don't have a cell phone, through the city, we have people donating their used cell phones, and if our listeners want to donate a cell phone that's not being used any longer, they can do that. All of their information, all of their previous phone book information and everything is taken out of it. So it's it's quote unquote a clean phone. And if they have a battery charger, a car charger, and a home charger, and they want to donate that phone, we'll take it. Bring it by the city.
Great.
And that, even though there is no service on that phone, they can always be used to dial 911. Now the problem with that, on one hand, is that yes, we can dial 911 with it, but if they're out somewhere, or even if they're using the 911 on the cell phone from home, it's difficult for the police department to track where that is.
Where they are. Okay. That
Okay,
makes
so they
sense.
can make a 911 call, but they're most likely going to have to give the information as to where they are.
Okay.
Whereas if they use a landline, then automatically, as soon as they make that call, and we recommend that that's the first thing they do, make the call, even if they can't talk, put the phone
make the
down.
call.
Okay, because the tracer is on there automatically, and 911 will automatically, come out and send the right people.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to have that landline also, and not just a battery operated, walk around the house type of a phone.
Right.
But
Cordless
one
phone,
that's
yeah.
the old-fashioned, good, reliable
with the
one.
cord.
Yeah, connected.
Yeah. Marv, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, sometimes it's good to have a phone contact out of town, so that in case of an emergency where the phones are down, cell phones probably, and also the land-based phones, that you could call someone and have a certain place where you would know where your loved ones are.
Okay. Very good idea. Very good point.
Right.
At the beginning of the program, we've talked about others with special needs, specifically non-English speaking residents, for instance, people without their own transportation. What are some things that those folks need to think about? We have a lot of people who English is not their first language.
Right.
So that's a consideration that needs to come into play as well.
Right. It might be a good idea for them to have somebody translate some, if they don't have the ability to write, for instance, some emergency information on this in English, because we can't be assured of sending somebody to the house with their language skills, to have somebody translate this or their language into something that would be comprehensible by the emergency responder.
Okay.
But again, it's important to be connected and let people know. The city provides a whole bunch of different services to seniors too, and chore is one of the things that I get involved with, working with seniors who are homeowners who can't get minor chores done. Now, this is not necessarily related to emergency preparedness,
Right.
but it could help somebody make their house more safe if they had some sort of a problem. For instance, putting a grab bar in the shower or bath area, repairing some steps. We have people who will do volunteer repair work for those sorts of situations.
And those are small things that really do go a long way.
Snow shoveling is another thing
Oh,
that we
yeah.
do, and we can prevent heart attacks
Exactly.
There are a lot of seniors out there who still shovel, and they should not shovel. But
Just these past few weeks when we've had these snowstorms, every single time we've had someone with heart problems.
Right.
And no matter how much we say, be careful, don't overextend,
Right.
hire the young boy down the street or the young lady down the street
Right.
who would love to make some extra money, that may be a good way, an option.
In many cases, they're not kids that are willing to do it anymore, interestingly enough. So we do have, if we have volunteers that will do it for those who cannot afford to have it done by a service. We also have referral sources that can refer services to seniors again,
Okay.
who are looking for, because they don't have to get out of the driveway the first thing in the morning to get to work. They don't get up quite as early as you do, for
Right.
instance, to get out to work.
The wee hours of the morning.
The services can come by the next day or later in the day, and therefore they will work with them for
That's
better
great.
for
It
better
gives a
rates.
little bit extra time.
Right.
In listening to both of what you've said today, Lou and Marv, a lot of this really is common sense. And it's being organized, as you said, and it's communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to reiterate? We have about 4 minutes left.
Yep. There are several things. We've talked about the file of life.
Yes. Very important.
There's also, for senior adults, since we're talking about seniors, we have a directory made available. And in that directory, in large print,
Oh, great.
okay, our phone numbers, city services here, okay, and emergency phone numbers. And again, by calling the senior division over 473-1830, they can find out how to get this or the updated one that's coming available.
Okay. And that number again where people can call to get that?
248-473-1830.
Okay.
The senior division over at the Costic Center offers a lot of services, but we're only working as it relates to emergency preparedness to support what the CCCEP is
Exactly.
doing, and we're trying to help them wherever we can do their job of getting these people covered on a 72-hour basis.
There is a fantastic publication put out by FEMA
Okay.
that can be obtained by calling 1-800-480-2520. The publication is called Are You Ready? It's very comprehensive and very informative. And simply by calling that number and they ask what your address is, it will be mailed directly to your home
Oh, that's
at no
great.
charge.
And again, that phone number, 1-800-480-2520.
That is correct.
And that's the information
FEMA
from
number.
FEMA.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Well, anything else as we begin to wrap up here, gentlemen?
Just that this is the Bible
That's right.
for emergency preparedness. And if you're not a senior and you have some other issue, then just turn to another page because every
Exactly.
single possibility is covered in this, and it's an award-winning, if you call it calendar or directory, whatever, it's award-winning, and we're getting requests for this, and it's updated on a regular basis. So
Truly, this book here could save your life, your family's life, someone you know.
Absolutely.
And you said, February, of course, seniors and others with special needs. If that is not your issue, flip to March. And in
Right.
March, we're going to be talking about tornadoes and tornado preparedness.
And that is what Farmington Hills is, a community of neighbors.
It is.
And we can all help ourselves and each other. That is exactly why the Citizen Corps Council of Emergency Preparedness encourages through its various programs and community outreach.
All right. Well, I am so proud, I can say myself, to be a part of a community that truly cares about all of its citizens. I want to thank you, Lou Cantor, for being with us today. Marv Shalane, thank you so much.
Thank you, Betsy.
You guys both gave such good information, and I know a lot of people watching today feel as though they are better prepared because of the work that you both are doing in our community. Thank you so much for your commitment to that. And thank you for educating us all about emergency preparedness.
Thank you.
and thank you for helping get the message out.
My pleasure. Well, until next time, I'm Fanchon Stinger on behalf of the Farmington Hills Citizen Corps Council for Emergency Preparedness. Make preparedness an essential part of your lives each and every day. From all of us to all of you, have a very safe and happy rest of the month. We'll see you next month as we talk about tornadoes and tornado preparedness. Thanks for watching.